is happening. It's not just 8th of March, but the whole month. It comes, the minute March is coming, everybody, in fact, beginning of the year starts thinking. So what does International Women's Day really mean for you?
Actually, I'm not much of an International Women's Day person because I feel every day should be a celebration for women, correct?
Right.
I mean, and you know, when you see your mother, you see yourself with your kids, you see your grandparents, you see or hear all the stories which you have gone through in your life or interacted with other women, you realize that, you know, women have so much to contribute. So why just one day? So this whole thing of International Women's Day, of course it's great because it kind of brings everyone together and we talk about so many things, but I truly believe every day is a celebration of a woman.
And that was the one common word that was used before, attitude. Everybody says we endure our attitude and that's our choice which we carry every day. Another big question which I had asked them earlier and just reframing that question to you. One woman who has touched your life and made that change and inspired you and that has helped you to be that significant impact also in this community, who would it be?
So first of all, I would say a woman as a child, your first impact when you see a woman is your mother. So I think that goes for all of us, that I think the first person you see and you want to kind of be like is your mother. So same thing with me as well. And through every phase of my life, I think I've met women that have inspired me. So after my mom, you know, I used to hear stories about my grandmothers from my father's side and my mother's side. And when I heard their stories, I was like, wow, you know, like my mother's mom was, I think, the first woman to be in the movies. She directed, produced, you know, a film in the 30s. Okay, she was a music director, and I'm like, you know, and she stood her ground because at that time it was not a profession which not everyone looked up to, but she was a very creative person, and she never let go of her creativity because of what society said. And she was one of the leading Thumri singers, you know. So and Begum Akhtar, who is the most renowned Thumri singer today, has learned under her. So when I heard about these things, and you know, she's my grandmother. When it came to my father's mother, she was widowed when she was 25 years old with 3 children. She raised those kids, faced partition, became a refugee, came to India, and lived in Haryana. You know, refugees were allotted plots. And she raised her children, and you won't believe it, till the day she died, she worked in the fields. Even after my father had become an actor, did very well, she refused to come and stay in any of her children's homes. She said, I'll come once a year, meet all of you, and I'm going to get back to my work. So that was the strength of the woman. So I think in your life and in every phase of your life, you have that one woman who inspires you. So like that, I've had many through my, you know, journey in my life, from my childhood to what I am today. And I think every day I'm inspired by women, you know, in every field, I should say.
Thank you so much, and it's amazing to know so much about your great-grandmother and grandmother. It's amazing to know those qualities. And we were just talking, when we were talking about quotes, and this is what we said, no matter what era you belong to. Today we have so much technology and knowledge with one key to advance. So let me just ask you, if you could walk us through about your foundation, then how did you get involved into it? Because a lot of time today, it's not just because your parents are doing something, and so many of us, we are doing our own things. It's not that it gets passed on, and to be a part of a foundational cause which is not all glamour and light, and especially people might think, okay, you know, you're doing for something, but it requires, there's a lot of skeletons at the back and there's a lot of groundwork. What is that something that, you know, got you involved, and how do you keep yourself inspired and motivated day in and day out with midst of all the challenges?
So I must say I was pretty fortunate because since a very young age, again, I've been seeing my parents work in the field, you know, working either for disability or working or doing something to impact lives. And I remember going with my mom. She was the founder trustee of an organization called the Spastic Society of India. And that is another lady who started that foundation, inspired me because she was a young woman who came with her little child all the way from London. And she came back to India, realized there was nothing there for disabled children. And her kid was studying in London, but here no school took her. And she collaborated with my mom, met the Prime Minister at that time, my mom helped her get the land and everything, and she started her own school. And that became one of the finest and the first schools for disability, and especially for spastic children. And she moved on to really work on inclusive education. So I started going to the school with my mother since a very, very young age. And like you said, not everybody gets, involved in things like that. It's a calling which you feel you have, and a connect you have. And my journey with my father from Mumbai to Punjab, it was a Padyatra we took in 1987. It was a 78-day Padyatra from Mumbai to Punjab. And that kind of changed my life completely. I was this young girl in college, last year of my college, and my father decided he's going to go to Punjab. And at that time, Punjab was burning. The Golden Temple was occupied by so-called terrorists and Bhindarwale and things like that, and it was chaos in Punjab. And he, coming from Punjab, always said that, listen, you can't segregate these kids. These are kids, these are our own children. We have to show that, we have to just, love heals everything. That was his whole concept of love heals. And he said, I will walk from here. And I don't want anything. I just want them to know that we are all there with them and we understand their pain. And I decided to join him. And for me, my joining him was like, I was a young girl. I said, wow, this is going to be such an adventure. Where will I ever experience this? Later, I will never be allowed to go on a Padyatra with anyone. So the best person to go with is my father. And we walked from every day, walking about 35-40 kilometers, meeting people, talking to people. And at that time, there was no press, there were no mobile phones, there was no internet, nothing. So communication was very, very limited to, and people didn't know what was happening. But it was so overwhelming to see that it was just word of mouth that started spreading, saying that ek aadmi chal raha hai, aman aur shanti ke liye. And they didn't know who was walking. They didn't know who Sunil Dutt was, because in the hinterlands, in the villages, there was no movies and TV and all at that time. So they didn't know anything. But yet, as we walked, we saw these thousands of people on the road, like villages had come out on the street. Somebody got us fruits, somebody got us khana, anything made in their home. To say that these people are walking for peace, we must somehow contribute to their journey. So it was a very, very overwhelming experience for me. And from this young girl whose life revolved around her college and her friends, and it's the same thing. That guy broke up with this girl, that one is having a hard time in this relationship. That was your world at that time. And this Padyatra actually brought me out of my comfort zone and really made me experience what the real India was, what the real people of India were, And so it took us 78 days. It was an extremely adventurous trip. We went through crazy times in that whole journey. I could write a book on that actually, just the Padyatra. It should, yeah. And a lot of people told me, because there's so many youngsters here who would not even know about that, right? So many said, oh my God, you should, write about it, and it was crazy. It was quite adventurous actually for us. So yeah, that changed my life, and at that time everybody saying, "Arey, Sunil Dutt is grooming her for politics and all. Now she's going to come into politics," and I was not at all interested in politics, and that angered me a lot. I went because I wanted to go. Why the hell is, are they putting a tag on me at that time? So I decided I'm finishing my last year in college, and I'm going to go study abroad. I don't want to be here. And I left. And things kind of took quite a gap in my life. And I came back and I made a movie on my mom. I did television production, and the very nascent stage TV was. So of course, and I wanted to do documentary filmmaking, and I never got funding for it. So that was a different story. But yeah, I realized I always wanted to connect with people. I always wanted to impact lives. And the Nargis Dutt Foundation had started in 1981, when my mother's phase of cancer happened. And at that time, nobody knew of cancer in the 70s, in the late 70s. And when they took her to the hospital at Tata Memorial actually, and the doctor said, listen, we don't have this kind of treatment here. The best place you can take her is in the US. And that too was a very huge struggle to go from here to America at that time. It was not even thought of. And with a lot of struggle, my father managed to take my mom there, got her admitted. She was there for a year and fought through this battle with cancer. It was pretty grueling actually. But her desire was always to come back to India, and she was pretty upset with my father that you brought me here, and why couldn't you get me treated there? If there is no treatment there, what must be happening to millions of people who might be suffering like me? Isn't there anything there for them? And she finally came back to India. The doctors advised her not to come, but she insisted that I don't care, now I've had enough, I'm going to get back, I want to go back home. And she passed away a few months later after coming back. And that's where the Nargis Dutt Foundation was born, and actually in the US. So my father being alone there at that time, new country, didn't know anybody. It was so beautiful to see that all the Indian community started kind of coming by and helping him. Somebody was cooking food for him, somebody was helping him with, taking him to a place, or, he never left the hospital for one day. He was with her day and night, just trying to help and fight and, encourage her to fight through this whole treatment. And seeing that passion, I think a lot of the Indian community became his family there. And they decided, listen, this was Mrs. Dutt's dream. The biggest tribute to her would be to start the Nargis Dutt Foundation. And let's all contribute to give back to our country. So the foundation, when it started, was only in the US. My father used to go every year to raise funds there and not bring money into the country, but equip rural hospitals with cancer care equipment. So we equipped more than 100 plus hospitals in rural India with just equipment of, the early diagnostic equipment, cancer treatment equipment. The first ICU in Tata Memorial was, set up with the contribution of Nargis Dutt Foundation. The first bone marrow transplant, which happened in Tata Memorial, was with Nargis Dutt Foundation. So our work has been very silent, very steadily, growing. But I think it's never come out in the open because there was no need. We were, doing our work, and my father never felt the need to, get into the publicity of it or try and, do anything. He was a member of parliament at that time. And after he passed away, and I got involved in the foundation, but I also became a member of parliament at the same time. So my involvement was, I never raised funds here because that is what my father taught me. That if you're a member of parliament, you should never get involved in getting money into your foundation and things like that. People might misconstrue the whole thing. And therefore we never raised funds at all. And I continued his work of going and raising funds in the US and bringing equipment into India. It was after I lost my election in 2014 where I decided that, wow, now I have a breather. And I always wanted to work a lot more with the foundation. And I decided, I'm going to start working full time with the foundation, and I'm going to work outside my constituency. And that is the first time we got into education. I remember we had got a request, and a lot of people used to, because I was MP also, our foundation was there, asked us that, please help us with few things. We had a request of bicycles for young girls in Palakkad. Okay? So I said, okay, I'll get you the bicycles, but I want to come and see for myself what the situation there is. And we went there, and I realized it's about 120 kilometers from Mumbai. And that place was completely underdeveloped, completely cut off from the real world. 120 kilometers from Mumbai. Roads were bad, everything was like bumpy here, there, and the other. We went to this little school which had 2 classrooms, was a school up to the 7th standard with 2 classrooms. So every given time kids were hanging around outside. They came only to eat their midday meals and go home. Girls were hardly there in school. And if any girl wanted to go into higher education, like there it is after 8th standard, you have to go 5 kilometers away for your 9th and 10th. And they had to climb over a mountain and walk 5 kilometers, and that's the reason they wanted the thing. And we realized, my God, it's crazy, and there is so much that we can do here. So we continued doing a survey for nearly about 3 months, I think, and my whole team went door to door. We said, we just don't want to go there and say, hum ye karenge. We wanted to find out what do they need, correct? So door to door, they went, found out what the problems were, what they needed, and we came up with this whole thing. They didn't even have electricity in the village. Can you imagine, at this day and age? Yeah. So we set up a solar electric thing for them, and we realized, but the older generation didn't want too much change. They were pretty happy the way they were. They got used to this life, and they said, but the young kids, we realized they had seen nothing. They had no aspirations, they had no dreams, because there was no exposure to anything at all. And we decided, I think that was a really great day where we decided we'd take them all in a bus and bring them to Mumbai. And we got them all to Mumbai. They'd never been in a bus, so there was a lot of throwing up and all that happening. And we took them to the Nehru Center and the Science Center and Juhu Beach and that Mumbai Darshan kind of thing. And this is the first time they'd gotten out of their little village. So it was a spark which we ignited in those kids. And we then set up a computer training thing for them for 1 month. Just basic computers. And you won't believe it. They just took it on like this. Initially they were so scared to even touch the button, and till we ease them into it, and then they were fabulous. Till the end of the course, they said, "Ma'am, हमारे लिए भी एक थोड़ा computer है, तो हम लोग practice करते रहेंगे." So in a very, not too much of a budget, we really revamped the whole school. Made a new classroom, got an extra teacher, we got e-learning for them, which helped them tremendously because teachers hardly come. And what really makes me happy is that one of the kids today is graduating from that school. She's gone into higher education, has graduated with agricultural studies. And I think it is the first time in that village that a young girl has graduated. Wow. So I think this, when you say, why did I get into it? I think it's just that you make a difference even in one person's life now. It's enough. And I don't believe that we do charity. I don't think any one of us here, when contributes something, is doing charity. You're doing it for yourself. You know, it makes you happy. It gives you the satisfaction. It will definitely help that other person, no doubt. But the satisfaction you get within is something which is, I think, priceless. You can't explain, you can't equate that to anything else.